billion is a lot of money. The reason I'm starting with that is that's the value of the solar farms that Strata Solar has built in the last 3 years here in North Carolina. Pretty good for a company that 4 years ago had about a dozen employees, and our biggest claim to fame was the fact that we'd put a solar system on the roof of Roy Williams' house. But today, North Carolina is number 3 in the nation in solar. And you might ask why this is. This is where Strata started with its very first utility-scale solar farm. For those of you that have a smartphone, you can pull this up on Google Earth. It's right near exit 4 on Interstate 85 as it goes into South Carolina. Just go a little bit north of the exit and you can pull it up. They're all over the state. And the Google satellites actually caught one in construction. Today, Strata has about 1,000 folks out there building solar farms. We add about 4 acres of solar a day to the state here in North Carolina. You might ask, why is that? What is it that's brought about this dramatic change in just a short period of time? It's very simple. It's economics. The price of solar continues to come down dramatically. The cost of our conventional sources of energy, unfortunately, continue to rise. We're at a point where things are starting to cross. This is some data from the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory. They track the cost of solar, and what they're showing is that cost of solar, particularly utility-scale solar, is coming down about 18% a year. At the same time, what we see is that our energy costs are going up at about 3%. This is Energy Information Agency data on North Carolina. And that sort of convergence means that alternatives like solar become much more attractive in the state. The stalwarts of our energy supply here in North Carolina are coal and nuclear. And they will continue to be so for quite some time. But what's really interesting is the change that's occurring in our generation mix. Natural gas is obviously the big story. This is additions nationally to our electricity generation portfolio in 2013 and 2014. What I find to be interesting, and I will admit my bias, is where solar is on this. And for the panel that was up here earlier, where wind is as well, becoming significant contributors to new energy sources, part of our portfolio in in the country and in North Carolina. Solar has a dramatic story. This is the growth of solar across the country. And as you see, in the last 3 years has just taken off and will continue to grow. Now, to keep things in perspective, this is coal in the blue, natural gas in the brown, and see that green line that can barely get off the axis? That's solar. So while I'm very bullish and optimistic about solar, we have to understand it's still a tiny part of our overall portfolio of energy in this country and in the state. But it bodes well for our future. Not only is it a clean energy source, but it provides incredible economic opportunities for us here in North Carolina. And that's really what I want to talk about today. Is what does that mean? What are those economic opportunities? First and foremost, and this echoes, I think, what you heard from Brian O'Hara talking about wind, is the fact that the fuel is free. And so once the solar farm is built, your costs are fixed. And so if you project out the cost of the energy that we produce, and that's that horizontal line there, whoops, hang on. There's the horizontal line there, the current avoided cost. That's the price that we get for the electricity that we sell to Duke and Dominion. That price is set by the Utilities Commission, and it's a 15-year contract. And so in an environment where you can see conventional prices, if we project that out, continuing to rise, all of a sudden, an energy source with fixed costs starts to look really good as you get out in time. The other thing that comes with solar is it's very modular. Anybody who has the capital can really get into the electricity generation business. For some, that creates a real opportunity. Paul Newton expressed some of the concern we have for some of the smaller scale solar and the cost that incurs from that. But basically, it provides an opportunity for those that wish to put their money into that and get into the electricity generation game. The other part of the economic impact is where it's occurring in North Carolina. This is Strata Solar's footprint around the state. You'll notice that solar is not in the triangle, it's not in the triad, it's not in Mecklenburg. Where it is in the Tier 1 and Tier 2 counties, the rural parts of our state, where economic opportunities are often sorely lacking. And the impacts in those communities are tremendous. You also heard from the wind folks, and there's a lot to be said on solar as well. The tax base that solar brings to those counties results in revenue that comes with no costs or investments required, no roads, no sewers, no schools and the like. We do ask, however, that the sheriff send his deputy by every so often to keep an eye on the solar farms for us. But it is economic revenue to those counties. It's also important income to our landowners, to the farmers from whom we lease the property. Many of them are land rich and cash poor, and many are looking to deal with the uncertainty of crop prices, the vagaries of weather, and trying to stabilize their income. And solar offers them that. We will lease a portion of their property and build a solar farm there, and then they have a long-term income stream. And for those, particularly those who are looking at retirement and the like, it becomes a way for them to maintain their farming heritage and maintain the property that's been in their families, in many cases, for many generations, while also securing their economic future. And one important part is the supply chain that comes from solar. I use this picture because you don't often think of a fencing company being in the supply business, but Fortress Fence, 4 years ago, was a 4-person company. Today they have 40 employees, and they're building fences like this around solar farms across North Carolina. Another example of supply chain is a company over in Shelby, North Carolina, Schletter. They make the racking that holds up all those modules. Interestingly, Schletter uses as much steel and aluminum as a typical automotive assembly plant. They're the country's largest manufacturer of racking, solar racking material. And one of their biggest suppliers is Nucor Steel, another North Carolina company. That supply chain means, obviously, economic opportunity. And then, of course, there's the issue of jobs. A typical solar farm that we build is 40 acres in size, 5 megawatts output. There'll be typically 80 to 100 people building it. It takes about 11 weeks. What we're able to do here in North Carolina is build these farms in a manner that once they finish one job, they move right to the next, to the next, to the next. Over the past 3 years, we've built 60 solar farms. And as I mentioned earlier, we have about 1,000 people currently building the solar. We're also in the process of building out our maintenance depots with 60 farms across the state. We do have to make sure that the grass stays mowed. We do have to make sure that the arrays continue to operate and the like. And so we're building out depots in Hickory, Lumberton area, Goldsboro, and up in the Rocky Mount area to maintain the solar farms that we have. And in closing, let me just say that solar has a bright future. Solar, North Carolina is a very good place for solar, and I think solar is very good for North Carolina. It's providing us a clean, affordable source of energy going forward, and providing, I think, great economic opportunity for many people around the state. And with that, I thank you very much.